Hi folks, and welcome to episode 6 of my UX tip videos. Today we're going to talk about delaying complexity. And to begin with, what I'll talk about is something you've probably heard of. It's called progressive disclosure. Progressive disclosure is the notion that your interface is only as simple as it can be and only gets more complex as the more complex things are required. They appear on demand, as it were. And so I'll take that as a first example, but it's not the only example of delaying complexity, but it's the easiest to approach. So let's take a look here at a travel search site. This is Kayak, and this is their flight search page. And this has both good and bad examples of progressive disclosure. Hopefully I'll explain. It takes a wee bit of an understanding of search volume in order to understand. But in terms of volume of searches that Kayak's likely to have on its website, return flights make up, a big chunk of those, more than any sort of trip type, I would imagine. So it defaults to that to a form that is that serves that purpose. And so it has search forms that serve different purposes, so that it doesn't need to be a very complex form. So it only asks for the airport that you're going out from, the one that you're going to, and presumably back because it's a return flight, and the dates you're going out and the dates you're coming back. Then you hit search. Now, that's not a search that'll appease everybody though, because some people's travel needs are more complicated. So progressive disclosure is the notion that somebody with that wants something more than what's there, then they can request it, and the interface becomes more complicated or more complex on demand, as it were. So here we go. Here's a multi-city trip. So multi-city trips, essentially, if there's more than two airports involved, essentially, this takes two main forms. One is open or closed jaw flights, in which the airport that you're coming back to or the airport you're coming back from differs. So I might be going out from Edinburgh to Paris, and then from Paris and come back to Glasgow because it's cheaper, or the flights are a better time, or I just actually need to be in Glasgow. That's what you call an open or a closed jaw. It can be different airports coming back from. So I could be coming back from Bordeaux rather than Paris, for example. And then there's multi-hop. So I could go from Edinburgh to Paris, Paris to Barcelona, Barcelona back to Edinburgh or Glasgow or whatever. So there's two main types: is the open closed jaw or the multi-hop. And this form here is prioritizing multi-hop. The reason being, sorry, I've still got some of my old search data in there. The reason being is that it's asking for 6 airports in total, when often only three are involved. So it's a more complex form than it needs to be. So where it was doing a good job earlier of hiding this complexity from me, now it's showing me complexity that I probably won't need. And the reason I mean that is that if you look at multi-city trips in terms of a travel search site's search volume, the open closed jaw trips make up by far the majority of the multi-city trips that are searched, and that requires a form that looks like that. So you can see, for example, Google Flights has this. Where it does that, and it's only when you need that extra flight that you add it, and you add flights as you need them. Progressive disclosure. So Kayak did a good job earlier, and then sort of dropped the ball a little bit with that. But that's an example of progressive disclosure. But it's not the only example of sort of delaying complexity. And the area I see this quite a lot with clients is they very often have online software, and they make the mistake of providing the complexity that people who are more advanced or have sort of volume needs to the person as they're just getting started. and this most often takes the form of like containers. So what I mean by a container is, if you're one example of a container might be a folder. If you're creating a document, a Word document or a Google Doc or something like that, you create the document, and then once you've got loads of them, it starts getting a bit disorganized. So you create a folder for that, but you create a folder after you've created the documents. I mean, you can create a folder early, but it doesn't demand that you create a folder. Now, a great example of this is the difference between doing a Facebook ad or a LinkedIn ad. If you're doing a Facebook ad, you've got the post, you can create the post as part of making the advert. And it's only as you create more of them that you maybe want to start organizing it. LinkedIn's the other approach, which is the bad approach I'm telling you to stay away from in case it's not clear, is that it forces containers for these adverts that you might never need. So it asks you to create to specify an ad account, like you're going to have. So it assumes that you're going to have lots of different advertising accounts when you're just getting started. It's just your own account. After that, then you need to create a campaign for the advert to live in, and you're supposed to understand what this campaign is and what properties an advert has and what properties a campaign have. And then once you create the campaign, then you assign an advert to that campaign. It's way more complex than it needs to be, and once you've experienced creating an advert in a good platform, then LinkedIn feels very painful as a result. And the problem is that they're bringing the complexity of volume need to the first time use. And it just makes things really, really hard to approach. So when people are onboarding your software and they're forced to use the complexity that your advanced users, people who already know your software, have asked for, then that can be a big burden to them understanding how it even works, or actually feeling that it's the software provides a good experience. So try wherever possible, delaying complexity until it's required, rather than bringing it up front before user can get some simple value from your software. Okay, hope that was useful. If you like these videos, then hit the like button, share them, or even subscribe. Okay, cheers.